there is a reason that it's hard to tell satire from real life these days. There's a reason that nobody trusts, or rather very few people trust, official sources, and that government has people have such low confidence in it. There's been a definite effort by government folks to make the American people not trust what is happening in front of their eyes, to not trust reporting, to not trust scientists, intellectuals, to not trust so much of what they see. And the crazy thing is, so long as they are allowed to keep doing this, even we, those who I like to think are working hard against it, you, me, we're going to contribute to the problem. Because when we debunk, say, a Jordan Peterson or a Tim Pool, which, by the way, great job, Emma Vigeland, on her appearance on the Culture War. But when we debunk those folks, it doesn't leave them thinking, the lefties must be right. It leaves them thinking, and this is by design, everybody's lying to me. So where does that effort originate? Tom Hartman talked about it, and it's very, very sad.
HartmanReport.com is titled GOP, How Dare You Tell the Truth? And it's about a series of articles that have been published in both the Washington Post and the New York Times over the last 3 weeks, tracking down or showing how researchers who are looking into lies and disinformation are now themselves being, in the crosshairs. They are the targets of lawsuits and congressional action designed to basically intimidate them and shut them up. I start out with the story of Starbird, Kate Starbird, who is a researcher at the University of Washington on disinformation. And she's mentioned in both articles. And, she thought she was doing the right thing, tracking down the source of deadly lies that killed 500,000 Americans, the COVID lies, and also almost led to the overthrow of the U.S. government, January 6th, and all the stuff around that. Where did these lies come from, she wanted to know. And she's not alone in this. There's a whole bunch of researchers. She was the one that was profiled in the Washington Post. But little did she realize when she started this research into something that, makes perfectly reasonable sense, that the very people whose behavior she was studying would use the power of government to try to destroy her work, stop her funding, and even try to destroy her personal life and her reputation. And not just hers. Right across the board. What we see now is there are lawsuits coming out of a couple of right-wing groups affiliated with the Trump administration. We're seeing Jim Jordan, who is the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, has subpoenaed a number of these groups. He's subpoenaing reporters. He's subpoenaing people who are involved in research into disinformation, lies, misinformation. And of course, you get a subpoena from him, and in many cases, he's subpoenaing, quote, all emails, correspondence, tweets, social media, everything going back to 2015. Now, just imagine, you get a thing, you're sitting at home, and a sheriff comes up and says, here, you've been subpoenaed. And the subpoena says that you've got to turn over to Jim Jordan's committee every email that might even peripherally touch upon any of these topics or any correspondence with other people who are investigating these topics for the last 2015, 8 years?
We're gonna watch this whole thing because it's all gold. But there's your answer. It's one political party that's doing this. It has always been one political party that is doing this. I'm not saying Democrats are angels here. Or ever, frankly. They are also self-serving. But this is different. You got to recognize it. Now, just like there are some people, there are some social media accounts, there are some newscasters who can take actions that disqualify them from being worthy of your trust ever again. So too can a political party. I'll spoil the what you can do on this. Show this to people that have ever voted Republican or will ever vote Republican again, according to their own word, and stress to them Republicans are not worthy of their vote. We got to get rid of all of them. There has to be no more Republican Party. I'm talking about Republican politicians. They got to go. It's a criminal organization. And the things that they do that aren't technically crimes are immoral and are designed to deceive the American people and are poisonous. They're dangerous. Ask them why it is their party wants to keep them ignorant. Now, I'm sure Jim Jordan, when questioned about this, will point fingers and make some wild accusations about the folks investigating the source of disinformation. But at the end of the day, if the truth was on his side, he'd have no fear of it. He would welcome such an investigation. Point this out to them. This Tom Hartman clip. And just ask him, do you acknowledge that this party is not worthy of your trust? Because you just have to. You have to. When faced with this is one of those things. I mean, frankly, after January 6th, that is the point where all Trump conversations need to go and halt. As in, we always bring it back there and say, look, Donald Trump tried a coup. He couldn't prove his case in court. Nothing that this guy says he can do justifies you voting for him. We cannot move on. We will not move on in any sort of talk until you come to peace with this reality. Similarly, with the Republican Party, this right chomp. They're trying to keep you ignorant. That means that they think if you knew the truth, you wouldn't support them. And that is all you need to know. That's it. There's no point in having a nuanced conversation about them. It's this right here. Let's hear what the man has to say.
Could you even do that? And Jim Jordan is threatening to put people in jail, in prison, if they refuse to, if they don't comply rapidly enough. And the effect of this has been to completely intimidate people. I mean, they're going after interns. They're going after students who are working on these projects. They're obviously going after professors. Why are they doing this? Well, it's for a very obvious reason in my mind. The Republican Party used to call themselves the Party of Ideas. Remember this back in the 80s? If you're old enough, you remember this, the Reagan administration. We're the party of new ideas. We've got some great new ideas. Unions are actually they're driving down wages on workers, the Republicans said. I mean, it was a lie, but people bought it. Union bosses are corrupt and they're enriching themselves. Well, that's a lie. Union bosses are paid a salary. It's not like they're CEOs who make money if the stock goes up, right? These were just lies. Voter fraud is caused by black people in the cities, and we got to crack down on those cities in order to stop. Another lie, a demonstrable lie. Climate change is not caused by fossil fuels. It's a natural, it's sunspots and stuff. Another lie. I mean, they're still promulgating these lies, right? Many of them go back to the 80s and Paul Ryan and his new ideas. But, public school teachers are part of a union-based communist conspiracy. Gays, lesbians, and trans people want to convert your kids. Teaching American history injures white children. Cutting taxes on billionaires helps average people. These are all lies. These are Republican lies. COVID is like the flu and the vaccine is dangerous. Expanding Medicare or regulating big pharma will break our healthcare system. Russia didn't help Trump. The media has a liberal bias. Public schools have failed. Abortions and birth control cause cancer, infertility, and regret. January 6th wasn't a traitorous coup attempt. This is the universe of Republican lies, and there's probably others that I've missed here, and feel free to call me. In fact, I'll go in and edit my article and add them in.
So basically, everything that Republicans say to get you fired up, everything Republicans say to get people to support the things that they want to do, which, coincidentally, help the already rich get richer, that either distract you, or burn out your energy, or give lefties a fight that they must fight, so that a conservative, let's rag on some conservative Democrats, a conservative like Joe Manchin can sneak into the debt ceiling agreement, more fossil fuel benefits. The very fact that global warming is now killing Americans, and they've got a bunch of you out there passionately defending the idea that it doesn't even exist. That's why they do it. And why do they then harass people who are trying to find the source of these lies? To protect the source of these lies, to stop them from being seen as lies, because they want to keep lying to the American people. The question, which Tom Hartman is going to depressingly answer, is why Jim Jordan is not under arrest. And I got some hope for you here. I slightly disagree with Hartman here. I think we accept the framing we've been given, and I've learned, hey, MAGA, I'm watching you, and I don't disagree with all of it. I've learned from you. I've learned that we do not have to accept that framing. But let's hear what Tom Hartman has to say. Why is Jim Jordan not under arrest?
But these are the big ones, in my opinion. The big, 10 or 15 Republican lies. And now we've got some researchers, credible university groups and the German Marshall Fund and the University of Washington and others who are looking into where did these lies come from and how do they get spread. And Jim Jordan is doing everything he can to stop that research. And he's being effective. He's being successful. The New York Times had one professor say, I won't even talk to you on the record. I'm afraid for my family.
I appreciate that you gotta look out for your family. And I'm not going to harp on this person too bad because, hey, I'm not in that situation. But this era requires courage. And somebody who won't talk on the record, somebody who will allow villains to go on with their villainy because the villainy worked. They ought not to be able to look themselves in the mirror ever again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Professor, that you got scared by some scary folks. And I acknowledge its danger. It's unacceptable to let these people win. You doom us all to save yourself. And that is the very core of the problem. Sorry you were put in that position. But you also put us all in a position where we go on suffering. And the next professor will be in a worse position. Because the people that you should have taken down by telling the truth will have further solidified their power, will have gotten more brown shirts. This era requires courage. I'm sorry that's a fact, but that's a fact.
People have been doxxed, they've been swatted, they've been outed, they've been harassed. Kate Starbird had deleted her Twitter account, which had 50,000 followers, because she was, being stalked, cyber stalked. This is, well, as William Shirer said, the historian who lived his first few years, or not his first few years, he lived in Germany through the first few years of the Hitler regime, and then left Germany and went on to write The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, which is, the seminal narrative of history of the Third Reich. He wrote, "In Nazi parlance, educated meant intimidated, to a point where all would accept docilely the Nazi dictatorship and its barbarism." Well, the MAGA wing of the Republican Party is devoted to education in this context. And the reason that they can pull it off with Jim Jordan doing this is because the Article 6 of the Constitution says that he can't be held to account. This was the exact same, it says, members of Congress shall in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of the peace be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses, and they shall not be questioned in any other place. In other words, Jim Jordan can do anything he wants, and nobody can stop him. He has immunity. This was the exact same immunity that was used in the 1950s by Senator McCarthy. Drunken Senator McCarthy, we should have had. Joe, good old, tail gunner Joe, they called him, because he pretended to be this was his campaign thing, taking pictures in the gunning tail of I think it was a B-25. So, they can't do anything. People can't stop them. They can't stop him. As the Washington Post reported earlier this month, quote, "The pressure has forced some researchers to change their approach or step back, even as disinformation."
Nonsense. Of course we can stop them. In all cases, except what did he say? Treason, felony, or breach of the peace. We start taking stochastic terrorism seriously. We cite the examples of a college professor who's unwilling to give an interview because he's afraid for his family's safety. We cite this account that had 50,000 followers shutting down because of stochastic terrorism, because of people out there harassing over political opinions. Misinformed ones at that. We start taking this seriously, that's a breach of the peace. You might even say that's a felony. But it requires us to treat it as such and to demand that it be treated as such. We have been passive for my entire existence. The American people, from what I've seen, are not what we pretend to be when other countries are peaking and when we talk to each other in our safe little hovels. We are timid, easily led sheep. That's our nature, because that's what we've been told is right and decent, and that's a lie. We should be what we pretend to be. We should be, frankly, hard to please. In the VOD, there will be a link. Contact the DOJ. I'll provide a script. I want Jim Jordan under arrest. I encourage you to tell them the same thing. Does it seem drastic? Yeah. Because we've been told that the right and decent thing is to sit down and be quiet while our betters endanger our lives and keep us, our children, and our grandchildren ignorant of their crimes. Enough. And you know what? It doesn't match the letter of the law. If Popak Or Kirshner comes on and says, well, now, this technically isn't right because there's a clause that says, I don't give a damn. Please us. Settle us down, DOJ. Whatever we have set up here as a group of people living in close proximity to each other, whatever we've set up here clearly doesn't work. So tell you what, smart Alex, who are in charge of reading the law and understanding the law, enforcing the law, you find out which laws you will apply in order to please us, in order to ensure our safety. And if they don't exist, write them. And if you're unable to do that, understand that you're going to keep hearing from us. Yes, you're going to suffer the horrible fate of strongly worded emails, not threats, strongly worded emails, perhaps protests. But I'll tell you this, what is not going to happen is we're not going to sit around and wait for the nooses to be draped around our necks. We're not going to file up and calmly walk into the slaughterhouse. Write the DOJ. Tell him Jim Jordan is a danger to the American people. And the reason you should do that is because Jim Jordan is a danger to the American people. Let's see what you all have to say.